I proclaim with all the power that is in me that the Inside Out podcast is the only true and living podcast on the face of the whole earth, with which I, Bruce Reginald McConkie, am well pleased, speaking unto the podcast collectively as well as individually.
It's now getting to the point where I think that the real Bruce R. McConkie actually said that. It's entering into my brain as if that is the case.
I feel his spirit every time we do the launch.
Bruce,
yeah. Maybe, Bruce, if you can hear us, maybe just post some comments and questions, and maybe we could deal with some of your historical views and doctrine. That would be
that would be lovely. Well, hello, sir. How are you?
I'm doing mighty fine. Excited about Christmas. How are you? How's your family? How's singing in the choir?
Singing in the choir was lovely. I mean, I'm still singing in the choir, but I'm not doing the Christmas concert. We finished the Christmas concerts, and that was a really exhausting week. And that's one of the reasons I was live streaming from the bowels of the conference center. I am now live streaming from the bowels of my own home. Notice my repeated use of the word bowels. It is a biblical word. It's a Book of Mormon word. Jesus talked about how his bowels were filled with compassion. But no, it's nice to I mean, it was a lovely, lovely experience, but it's also lovely when it's done. Usually after the Christmas concert is done, we move on. We're done for the year because it's usually right up next to Christmas. And so they just run reruns for the Christmas week and the New Year's week. But they did it earlier this year for some reason. And so we still have one more broadcast on Sunday and a rehearsal on Thursday. So we're not done with the choir for the year. But so that's a long answer. But we've got 3 comments from Latter-day Digest who says, howdy. He says, Bruce. And he says, he said that in conference, but the church re-recorded it. What did he say in conference? Oh, yes. Bruce R. McConkie said that in conference.
He did, yeah.
Re-recorded
hey, Jim, with your being the most talented international professional choir singer in the world, certainly one of them, right?
Certainly.
Will you grace us with one of your songs? I know you played the Miracle of the Christmas Pool on your Facebook page, which I loved. But would you consider singing to us at some point over Christmas, or is that?
I could share the Miracle of the Christmas Poo here if people want to see
it. As people heard of that, as our listeners and viewers heard of the most extraordinary story in animated form. Now you've produced an animated cartoon, The Miracle of the Christmas Poo. It's the most compelling Christmas story since the Bible, in my opinion.
Well, yeah. So I've also I wanted to run this by you before. I've written another Christmas song, and maybe we can share that. Well, it is. I've been told it is wildly offensive.
Oh, okay.
So maybe I shouldn't share that, but I could share the Miracle of the Christmas Poo. I'm now trying to figure out if this program, if StreamYard lets you do that. But anyway, so maybe I will look into that, and maybe that can be how we close.
Yeah.
Latter-day Digest says only on RFM's Christmas Eve show. I actually talked to RFM today. RFM does a Christmas Eve show every year. I wasn't able to participate last year because my family was in Mexico. But this year, I'm going to be on it. And I've told RFM, actually, I may share my offensive song with him as well. So we'll see what happens.
Right.
But segueing, speaking of offensive, lots of offensive stuff happened this week.
Yeah, we're coming up to Christmas, right? It's a time for Christians to celebrate the birth of Jesus, to think of our relationships with each other, our goodwill to each other. It's that time in the year where we should think a little kinder, judge less, be quick to love, quick to forgive. That time when we're feeling hopefully a little bit better. We've had a challenging year. People are trying to make ends meet and trying to feed the family, and you've got work and all these commitments, and Christmas is a time to recoup, recover, rehabilitate, recharge your batteries, and a time to be kinder towards each other. But we see a lot of that. I think there's a lot of goodwill over there. So we expect that. I expect it. I'm not an American, as you could tell, not an American accent, but we expect that from the leader of the free world to be able to speak positively. And I was very disturbed this week when your president, not mine, thank goodness, Donald Trump, said some terrible things about the director, Rob Reiner. Reiner, is that his name? Pronounces Reiner.
Reiner. Uh-huh.
And he said something that really caught my attention and I found very disturbing. It's shocking because it doesn't, again, I'm not trying to be political here. When I read this, it wasn't nothing to do with Democrats or Republicans or which party you support. That wasn't the thing that grabbed me or the reason why I'm mentioning this. It was what the actual comments were, and it was the context. And I'll read it here if this is correct. I've checked this, and if our viewers and listeners find any error in this, please call me out. Please correct me. Trump said this recently, a few days ago, when he heard about the passing of Rob Reiner. Reiner. I apologize, Reiner. And I think it was Michelle, his wife. And he says this: a very sad thing happened last night in Hollywood. Rob Reiner, a tortured and struggling, but once very talented movie director and comedy star, has passed away together with his wife, Michelle, reportedly due to the anger he caused others through his massive, unyielding, and incurable affliction with a mind-crippling disease known as Trump derangement syndrome, sometimes referred to as TDS. He was known to have driven people crazy by his raging obsession of President Donald J. Trump, with his obvious paranoia reaching new heights as the Trump administration surpassed all goals and expectations of greatness, and with the golden age of America upon us, perhaps like never before, may Rob and Michelle rest in peace. I was absolutely appalled and disgusted by that, politics aside. Just for any human being to say something like that in that context is just absolutely vile, disgusting, and awful. And I found it repulsive, and I posted it on my Facebook, and I got some comments there. You've read that, you've heard about that. What was your reaction?
Fury. I mean, just absolute fury. I mean, this is not normal. I mean, it just drives me nuts. So my love affair with Jacob Hansen, right?
Yes.
My good buddy.
I'm in direct contact with him. Him and I chat.
I know you are. Because
not a beer, by the way, not a beer. Just saying. Okay.
Oh, there you go. I spent the entire day praising Jacob Hansen because Jacob Hansen was right on the money on this. Jacob Hansen is a big Trump supporter. I've had all kinds of problems with Jacob Hansen in the past, but he called this out for what it was and said this was absolutely disgusting. And it's just so important that this not be a partisan issue. I mean, so I posted on Twitter a post where I said, let's see, I'm going to pull it up here. I said, Donald Trump is not just the worst president it's not just that he's the worst president of the United States of America. It's that he's the worst person in the United States of America. I mean, that morally, spiritually, ethically, this is a bad human being who does bad things. And you can't imagine any other president in the history of the country making a grisly family murder that had absolutely nothing to do with politics all about him. I mean, he essentially is saying, well, Reiner was killed because he hated me, and he inspired people to kill him because he hated Donald Trump. In other words, he deserved what he got. I mean, it's just so warped and so narcissistic and so indecent that the fact that there are people that can still defend this and still say this is acceptable and still say that this is normal is just, it makes me feel like America is lost. And so I posted this. It has gotten 87,000 views, 12,000 likes, 1,000 retweets, and I have gotten hordes of MAGA people commenting on it saying, oh, you just have trunk derangement syndrome. Oh, you're the worst. Oh, what about Charlie Kirk? I mean, the Charlie Kirk thing drives me crazy. Because what about Charlie Kirk? Can you point to me? What did Joe Biden say when Charlie Kirk was murdered? What did Barack Obama say? What did Bill Clinton say? They expressed horror at what had happened, expressed condolences to his family, said nothing negative about him. That was true of every prominent Democrat, every single one. And so these guys all just go and they find random TikTok weirdos who said terrible things and equate that with the president of the United States saying that Rob Reiner deserved to die because he hated Donald Trump. I mean, it's just, we have gone through the looking glass. And again, I've said this so many times on our podcast, this is a huge trial of my faith. Because if the people with the gift of the Holy Ghost and the gift of discernment can't see this man for who he is and for the damage he is doing to the morality and the spirituality of this nation and the world, if we can't stand up against that, then what good are we? I mean, what good is this gift of discernment? If we can't recognize this man for who he is. So that was probably a little more heated than you wanted.
No, not at all. It was important to get your raw reaction. I had a raw reaction to it, and it just, I thought my body just reacts and my spirit react to that. As you know, I believe and continue to believe that there's a great goodness in the church, in the members, for the most part. The members are wonderful, kind, thoughtful individuals. And I think many of them people in the church will have reacted to this comment, similar to the way we have. And, we'll be processing it, on a personal level. The church, I don't know, it won't come out and obviously condemn something like that, but it has come out and condemned the awful event that happened at Bondi Beach in Australia. And we've said repeatedly on our podcast, on the Inside Out podcast, about the obligation and responsibility the church has to speak up and address and comment on big issues of the day that affect Latter-day Saints, but affect the population as a whole across the world. The church claims to be a church for the world, not just for United States or Utah, or even just for Mormons, that the prophet is the prophet of the world. And therefore that comes with great responsibility. And so we say, we've said repeatedly, the church need to stand up and do things and say things and speak up. And on the issue of the awful tragedy that happened in Australia, I saw some of the video footage on some of the news channels of the terrible event that happened in Australia a few days ago, and saw these two gunmen, father and son, allegedly, on this bridge, firing indiscriminately, but discriminately to a group of Jewish people celebrating Hanukkah and Christmas, because they were nothing else other than Jewish. The images are shocking. They're awful. It's human nature just baffles me. The extent at which individuals can go, and the lengths they go to destroy the lives of other people is just extraordinary. The inhumanity towards man with some individuals is just indescribable, unspeakable. But the church did come out and make and provided a statement. I want to read that because I think it's important to read, and I commend the church for doing this, for speaking up about this. It's on the church's website. It says here, following the violence targeting the Jewish community in Sydney, Australia, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has issued the following statement. We are deeply saddened by the tragedy that took place in Sydney, targeting people of faith as they gathered. We condemn and feel acutely the pain of such a senseless act and mourn with our brothers and sisters in the Jewish community around the world. May we all come together in peace and love to comfort those in need. As followers of Jesus Christ, we look to his example and pray that his love will soften hearts and inspire harmony and compassion during this holy season. It's a wonderful message. I'm grateful to, that the church has done that. I look at that dark side of human nature, Jim, and that dark side of human nature has been around since the beginning of time, right? Since Cain and Abel. We've seen awful, terrible events in history. We've seen despicable acts from, between one human to another. It's just extraordinary. It's complete contrast to what Christ taught, and it's completely opposite to the spirit of Christmas that we now, beginning to feel. It just baffles me, and I worry that we've, that side of human nature has gone so far and there's so much division in the world now that we're going to see. I worry we're going to see more of this and not less. We're so divided across the world, and we feel like we're beyond repair, like we just can't fix ourselves. At the same time, I have a sense of hope that in the end, good will prevail. So did you read the statement from the church? What are your comments? What are your thoughts? What's your reaction?
I did, and I was very encouraged by it because it was a whole lot more specific than most of the statements the church usually issues on public sorts of tragedies. I compare it to when the Ukraine war broke out, and the church issued a statement saying war is bad. And they didn't say Ukraine is in the right and we stand with Ukraine against this terrible aggression from Russia. It was just, we're going to straddle the fence. We're not going to take a side. We're not going, and that drove me crazy. It specifically references people not of our faith who were targeted because of their faith. And I think that is a specificity that was sorely needed and that speaks well for the church that they were willing to do that. So I thought that this statement had more teeth to it than a lot of the statements that they've issued for tragedies past. I would hope they would say something again in response to Trump, because again, this has nothing to do with politics. It has to do with decency. It has to do with morality. When I was a young staffer at Capitol Hill and I asked Elder Ballard in a conference about whether the church was going to take political stands in other countries, he got visibly angry with me, which was really kind of embarrassing to me. I was a kid in my 20s, really. Not a kid, but I was just newly married, very young. And he insisted the church never, ever takes a political stand. The church only takes a stand on moral issues. And I'm like, now at my age going, okay, take a stand on moral issues, guys. This is a moral issue. The moral issue is you have the leader of the free world celebrating murder and applauding murder. And it's just, I don't know. I'm now getting angry again. So can we go to the comments? You want to read some of these comments?
Absolutely. Let's go to the comments. Let's have a look here. Hang on a second. Okay. So, Latter Daily Digest, the bleater of the free world Yeah,
There you go.
that's one way. American people are finally wising up. He only has 36% approval rating and a 60% disapproval rating. Is that? Thank you for that, Clayton. Is that reliable, Jim? Is that correct?
So yes, is the short answer. The long answer is that is an average of a number of different polls. It's very hard to point at one poll and say, okay, that's the poll, that's the number. But every poll now has him in that range, and that is the average of all of the different polls. But so what? I mean, it does mean that he's probably going to get clobbered in the midterms, assuming we have midterms, assuming he doesn't throw whatever wrench he can into the works to screw that up.
Which is next November, correct?
Which is next November. So, I mean, it's only going downhill from here. He's losing his mind. I mean, he gave a 41-minute speech about snakes and how snakes in Peru are killing 28,000 people per year, despite the fact that snakes in Peru have killed 10 people in the past 15 years. I mean, he just gives these stream of consciousness, bizarre rants that bear no resemblance to reality and no resemblance to what it is he's supposed to be talking about. Cognitively, he's going way downhill. Physically, he's going way downhill. He had an MRI that he said was a preventative MRI. There's no such thing as a preventative MRI. You don't get an MRI unless there's something seriously wrong with you, or at least they think there's something seriously wrong with you. He walks around with these bruised hands and a bandage where he would put an IV feed into. I mean, he's dying, essentially. I mean, mentally, I don't know if he's going to die before the end of his term, but mentally, he's practically gone. I mean, all of the Trumpers were talking about, oh, Biden, he's so old. It's like, if Joe Biden stood up and gave a 41-minute talk about snakes in Peru, I mean, he'd already be out of office. The 25th Amendment would have been invoked and said, this man is not competent to be president. But we have different standards for Trump. We don't have any standards for Trump. Mm-hmm. And, you know, Latter-day Saints says Trump is a sick man. Yeah, literally. He is a physically sick man. He is a mentally sick man. Trailer trash of the East Wing, R.I.P. Well, he's destroyed the East Wing. So Clayton Settle says, Benson and J. Reuben Clark told the Mormons to vote conservative or Republican, hard to change. Yeah, but it shouldn't be. J. Reuben Clark has been dead for... I was never been alive when J. Reuben Clark was alive. He's been dead for over 60 years. Benson has been dead for over 40. Benson hasn't said vote Republican for over 60. He never said that in my lifetime. I mean, the vestiges of all of this garbage are you have to go back that far to find people saying, oh, yeah, you have to be a Republican. And yet that is the mindset. Rob Reiner directed A Few Good Men and The Princess Bride, among other memorable movies, and a fine comedian in his own right. I did some math here. Well, it's not math, but I went through and I realized if I were to put together my top 10 movies, 3 of them would be Rob Reiner movies. Not A Few Good Men, although I love that movie. I was actually in the stage play. But when Harry Met Sally, you've seen When Harry Met Sally?
Great movie. Yeah.
Great movie. This is Spinal Tap. You ever seen that?
I've heard about it. Is that a comedy?
Oh, yeah. It's
a great comedy. I heard it. Right.
It is the first mockumentary is the word that was coined for it. Like, it's a fake documentary. I mean, The Office wouldn't happen if it weren't for This is Spinal Tap. That whole genre, it's now a genre where TV shows and movies do that all the time. This is Spinal Tap was the first. It follows this has-been rock band, heavy metal rock band, as they go on a disastrous tour. And it is hysterically funny. I've watched it countless times. I've also seen the sequel, which just came out this year, and it's not very good. And unfortunately, it's going to be Rob Reiner's last movie. And the third one, I would bet this is on your top 10 list too. The Princess Bride.
Oh yeah, we've watched that many times. Great movie.
Oh,
yeah.
So
Right.
Yeah, Latter-day Digest says, I'll have what she's having. Very tight. And Clayton says, I mean, Benson the Prophet would have ran with George Wallace, for goodness sake, if it wasn't for your grandfather, Jim. My great-grandfather. But yeah, you know that story, Ian? Do you know who George Wallace was?
I heard the name.
Governor of Alabama. Racist beyond belief. Tried to block when the Supreme Court passed Brown versus the Board of Education, which desegregated American schools. The National Guard went to take a young black girl to a white school to integrate her into the white school. And George Wallace, the governor of Alabama, stood at the school doors and blocked her from entering. Just a virulent racist, terrible guy, and was going to run for president on a third-party ticket and asked Ezra Taft Benson to be his running mate.
Oh, right.
And Ezra Taft Benson, who had been the Secretary of Agriculture in the Eisenhower administration, and later accused Dwight Eisenhower of being a communist. Everybody was a communist. Martin Luther King was a communist, according to Ezra Taft Benson. And he said, and he thought he'd be able to do that because President McKay was 90. This was 1968, so McKay would have been 93 and was suffering from what we now think was Parkinson's. My grandfather died of Parkinson's, and they think it was the same thing. My grandfather would actually deliver conference talks for President McKay that they cobbled together from previous conference talks. They would just sort of cut and paste previous conference talks. So Benson thought he could do this, but McKay kind of sparked up enough to say, you can't do this. I won't let you do this. This is inappropriate. And it was probably the last big decision that David O. McKay made in his lifetime.
Yeah.
So anyway, I mean, Rob Reiner, I mean, he was also very political. There's no doubt about that. He's very liberal. And back in my very conservative days, I would get very bugged by Rob Reiner's politics. But that never interfered with the fact that I thought he was a brilliant, magnificent director. And you know, so, but even if you don't like his politics, you don't do what Donald Trump just did. It's just not acceptable. So yeah. I don't know. I'm beating the horse here.
These, you know, it's difficult to. Well, actually, I think it's necessary to talk about politics, right, and religion. So people stay away from it. But, you know, post-Mormon podcasts don't get into that stuff. I don't mind talking about it, you know, in a very civil way. I think we can have a respectful civil dialogue on politics and agree to disagree on some things. It's good to debate, good to discuss. I have had some interesting thoughts lately as I'm reflecting on my life and where I'm going. And, you know, I'm at the stage where I've got more years behind me than I have ahead of me. And, you know, 2026 is coming up, and you talk about New Year resolutions and goals, and you look back and have you achieved the goals of 2025, etc. And so as I think about the world and life and family and friends, etc., and work, I have a natural instinct to come to the conclusion that there's not much I can do to influence the world in all of its mess, and that my only sphere of influence, Jim, are my family, my friends, some work colleagues, and that's about it. But I think that can be quite dangerous. I think it is dangerous. I think it's important to understand and recognize that we can do more to influence others for the better.
Sorry, don't know what happened there.
That's okay. You disappeared from it. Did you catch what I was saying? Did you hear what I was saying?
Well, you were talking about your sphere of influence, and that your only sphere of influence is in your own family
and friends, and very limited, small sphere of influence in the world. And at times feel like I really can't. Probably like many people, I don't really can do anything to really change the world. But I think, and that's one line of thought. in me. But the other line of thought is, well, no, sometimes we have to stand up and speak up and protest, either it's online or physically, peaceful protests, etc., and standing up for what's right and not being silent, not being quiet. I think being silent and being quiet also sends a message. We can be complacent, and sometimes our silence can be interpreted as agreeing with something. Not always, but sometimes it can. And there's power still, I believe, in the voice of the one. And especially if enough people stand up and speak up about issues of the day, that we can, believe it or not, change the world. That's why I put so much emphasis on the church, because it's this extraordinary organization with vast amounts of resources, far, far more influential than I will ever be or you will ever be, that has a voice in the world, can stand up and speak up about the issues of the day, and not just periodically on certain things, but take a position on some things. To me, that's bold, that's courage, and that is intestinal fortitude. And boy, do we need it at this particular time. So, anytime the church does that, I'm grateful for that. Do we have any comments we want to read?
You know what? I think we got caught up on the comments. Oh, but no, Clayton says your influence has greatly increased with Inside Out. So there you go.
All right. Well, that's nice to know. I wasn't aware of that. That's nice to know. I think, all those people who know what's right and wrong in the world, I think we have an opportunity, and we have a responsibility and obligation to do something, to say something, to act, and to change the world for a better. Because if we don't do that, then we are on this slippery slide to, destruction. If you look at the trends, and maybe I'm reading too much media. I try to get a cross section, Jim, of what's going on in the world by looking at different media outlets, right, channels, and try to get a broad perspective of what's going on. And you can't trust many of them, perhaps just a few, to see what's going on in the world. But it's worrying, and so I think before we get too far down the line, we've got to be able to do something and act and write to your politicians, speak up and speak out on certain things. I feel increasingly they ought to get very strongly about certain things, and sometimes feeling that I should go into politics because I feel I could do a better job. I know that sounds arrogant. Probably sounds really arrogant saying that, and I don't mean to be arrogant, but I actually feel like I do. And I'm not the smartest person on the planet. I'm reasonably intelligent, but I think I could do a pretty good job compared to some, certainly here in Canada and certainly in the UK, which is an absolute mess. Jim, Ian, glad to see you on. I hope I didn't miss anything good. Hi, Positive Mind. A Positive Mind, I think you've missed the most valuable podcast live show we've ever done. So sorry about that. I'm joking. Even Greg Madsen called out Trump on this one. I wish all these people would really wake up to the person they put in the Oval Office and see him for what he is. I don't understand the Americans that voted for him, Jim. It's like in the UK, which is an absolute disaster with the Labour Party. It's we don't talk about British politics, but it's a disaster. I know, our audience is predominantly North American, but the UK politics is corrupt. It's the worst political fiasco in the history of British politics. The current government's lying, hiding things about its policies, breaking its manifesto, allowing certain extreme fundamentalist laws to be practiced in these extreme fundamental religions, which are contrary to British law. It's absolutely disgusting. There's so much division going on. There was also a incident where there was a terrorist that gunned down 2 Jewish worshippers in October in Manchester. That hit the headline news there. And they rammed a car into one of the individual and killed one of the worshippers there. One of the synagogues in Manchester, UK. It was awful. If you're Jewish, you must feel pretty unsafe right now around the world. There's so much bad feeling and hatred towards the Jewish community, and I really feel for them, and I just can't imagine what they're going through. We do, Jim. There is and we want to be positive here. We don't want to be too negative and too doom and gloom here, but there is a wonderful message that the church has put out, a Christmas message, as they do every year, as you know, and there's a wonderful message that I'd like to read, because I think it's important to focus on the positive side and to believe that you can make a difference as long as you act, right? Anyway, I want to read this 2025 Christmas message from the First Presidency, if I may. We rejoice in remembering our Savior Jesus Christ. He was born in humble circumstances. Heavenly angels heralded his birth. He preached the gospel of repentance, hope, and everlasting life. He opened the eyes of the blind, made the deaf to hear, healed all manner of afflictions, and raised the dead. He is the only begotten of our Father in heaven, the firstborn of God's spirit children. Through his sacrifice and infinite atonement, we can be reconciled with God by obedience and repentance. In this season of light and goodwill, we rejoice in Jesus Christ and in his eternal plan of happiness. We invite you to seek him and the blessings of his peace. Merry Christmas, the First Presidency. The only, again, not trying to be negative here, because I think it's a wonderful message. The only thing I would change there, and I'm trying to find the word, and it's not there, I don't think I've read it, is love. And so I don't think I've read the word love in that. I think that's missing. If it was me, I'd have written that second paragraph differently at the end. He said, through his sacrifice and an infinite atonement, reconciled with God by, instead of obedience and repentance, love and forgiveness. I would have rewritten that end bit if I was the First Presidency. But again, it's a pretty wonderful message. So we're glad to get that for sure.
Well, and this was the whole thing about the Christmas concert. I mean, one of the reasons why I love being in the Tabernacle Choir is that it is everything good about the church and nothing bad about it. There's no condemnation. It's inclusive. And you see that in the actual concert. So our guest artists were two people I had never heard of. I could tell you their names: Sebastian Arcellus and Stephanie J. Block. And I'm betting you'd never heard of her either, of them either. No. Or do those names ring a bell to you?
Mm-mm.
But so they are not members of the church, no connection to the church, but they are religious. They believe in Jesus. And every year, the Tabernacle Choir, the format of the show is pretty much the same. It's the same structure. We get a guest singer, and then we get a narrator. And the narrator tells a story. And some of the stories have been more compelling than other stories. This year, there was some overlap because the narrator was the husband of the singer, and so he sang as well. But he also told this story, and the story was of the Apollo 8 mission, which was the first space mission to orbit the moon. It wasn't until Apollo 11 when people actually landed on the moon. But the Apollo 8 mission, it's notable for being the first time that human beings left Earth's orbit, and they orbited the moon. And when they did this, they took a picture of the first picture of what's called Earthrise, that they saw the Earth, the same way we'd see a sunrise. They saw the Earth rising up behind the moon. And it's a beautiful picture. And the way they did this, if you saw the concert, the concerts are all filmed this year and then released as video productions on PBS the following year. So the PBS special that came out this year is last year's concert. So you'll be able to see this next year, but it won't be till next year. The conference center, they pulled this curtain in front of the choir so they could project these images on the curtain. And then near the end, the choir sings as if they're sort of in space, and it was really kind of lovely. But they were in orbit around the moon at the time of Christmas. They're on Christmas. And they said, okay, we're going to be out in space on Christmas, and we're going to have an audience of 1 billion people listening to whatever it is we say. What should we say? And at first they said, well, just say something appropriate. And they couldn't think of what that would be. And they finally decided to read the creation story from the book of Genesis. So they're out in space and they say, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form. And, and you just hear this in this sort of scratchy radio 1960s voice. I mean, the technology back then, you have more technology in a pocket calculator than they had in that space module. But they were able to broadcast this to the whole world and unite them. And I sat there thinking, okay, this message of total inclusion and of total unity for the entire world being delivered by a couple that are not members of our church, but are the featured performers here. This message is too often at odds with the day-to-day message we get in the church. Because once we're not trying to put our best foot forward to the entire world, we go into our meeting houses, we go into our sacrament meetings, and we insulate ourselves and say, well, we're the only true church and we're the only ones that matter. And we're not going to talk about what's going on in the rest of the world. And we're not going to include them because we're the only ones with all the answers. And I just think, I would love to see that broader, more inclusive approach in sort of the day-to-day operations of the church. And it's, again, one of the reasons why I love the choir is that is the face the choir is always presenting to the world. Music and the spoken word is an exceptionally ecumenical broadcast. You watch it if you're Catholic, if you're evangelical Christian, if you're any kind of Christian, and even if you're not a Christian, you watch that, you're not going to find anything that excludes you, that tells you you're not part of this. That this is just for us Latter-day Saints. This isn't for everybody else. So
yeah,
I don't know.
That's wonderful. I have had, since I was a kid, I've had a fascination for the stars. I had a cheap telescope growing up as a kid. I got it for a Christmas gift. I used to, look at the moon and go beyond that because it was a cheap telescope. We have a telescope. It's more powerful, and I am in awe when I saw the rings of Saturn and Jupiter, and I could see the moon pretty close up. It's extraordinary, and the miracle of the universe and how it operates and the power behind it is just extraordinary. The sheer fact that we've got life on this planet, the moon is just the right size and the right distance and the right material, and the earth is in the sun and the solar system and the Jupiter's gravity. And I follow these and watch these extraordinary programs about space and the distant galaxies. It's just absolutely miraculous. However, the thing that trumps that for me is, sorry about that word, trigger word.
Yeah.
The thing that is ruined that word. The thing that stops me in my tracks and brings my gaze back onto this extraordinary planet in which we live in a far more powerful way, believe it or not, than looking at this extraordinary galaxy, which is mind-blowing, right? Is the miracle of the goodness of people. The miracle, I'm a grandfather, and we get daily images of my granddaughter growing up. She's changing every day, every week. She's sitting up now, and she's now in this little toy support chair toy thing, and she's moving her legs, and she's 6 months yesterday. And every day is a miracle. It's an absolute miracle to see this bundle of joy, this love in this little girl in her face. She's so sweet. Mom and dad are just wonderful parents. There's miracles all around us, Jim, all around us in your life, in your, with your choir and your joy that you feel, your family and your friends. And there's incredible miracles that surpass, believe it or not, the galaxy, this extraordinary physical embodiment of the universe and all these things that we still don't understand. The power and the of the universe is here in the human spirit, and it's when we are being our best selves, when we are acting for others, when we are serving others, when we, if you look at Christmas time, which is filled of, if you're having a good Christmas, you've got gifts, you've got family, you've got food, you've got friends, you've got songs, you've got movies. But in between those times, there's an opportunity to get out the house and go and do something for somebody who is vulnerable, excluded, or disadvantaged, who is struggling, who is trying to feel good over Christmas time. And they are reminded, by the way, at Christmas time that they're supposed to feel good because, hey, it's Christmas and we're all supposed to rejoice, but they don't feel good. They feel crap. They feel lousy for whatever reason. Homelessness, could be drug related, could be divorce, it could be loss of job. There are people out there who are absolutely struggling, and they're trying to feel some semblance of joy over Christmas. And we have an opportunity between the movies and the meals and all the trimmings and all the gifts and the songs and the nice fire, etc., to go out there and to bring that miracle of love and joy and peace, some kind of act of service of love, just for the sake of doing that for love, right? Not for reward or nothing to be marked off on a home teaching or ministry tick, nothing like that. Purely because we are driven by this sense of love and care and compassion for those who are struggling, those who are whose hands hang down, arms hang down, who have got feeble knees, who are struggling at this time. And so I think I know there's an opportunity that we can capture and deliver over Christmas time to be able to help those people. So yeah, the galaxy and the universe and I follow this stuff as much as I can. I love it so much, but the miracle is here. It's actually on this planet. It's right here. And so I'm forever the optimistic. I have faith in human nature for the most part. I see the good and the greatness in the church. I'm grateful for all the good that the church does. I'm grateful for the message of the gospel and all of those universal principles like love and joy and sacrifice and service and forgiveness, right? And it's important to have at least a splinter of peace, moments of peace, over Christmas time. Otherwise, we just overwhelmed by all the negativity that's going on in the world. So anyway, that was my end of year Christmas. That was the Inside Out First Presidency Christmas 2025 message right there.
Well, I think it was absolutely lovely.
Thank you.
We've got some fun messages here in the comments.
Go ahead.
As a father of a young boy, this is Clayton. I'm worried about all the vices gunning for young men: vaping, drugs, porn, sports gambling, crypto. Crypto is now a vice. The church does a tremendous job of developing young men. That's absolutely true. Although, I always rail on the fact that, I grew up in the scouting program, and I was a terrible Boy Scout and kind of hated Boy Scouts. But there's no denying that it sort of was a structure that allowed me to sort of develop as a young man. And I'm nervous that the church has abandoned scouting and replaced it with nothing. And so I'm nervous that we're not doing as much for young men as we used to do. Although I am grateful that the church, to some degree, there was a tremendous imbalance in the church's focus for young people when I was growing up. Scouting was the centerpiece. Scouting got the lion's share of the money and the lion's share of the attention and the focus, and the young women's program was almost an afterthought. And they got far less money. They didn't have any kind of the same sort of structure. They had this kind of young women's, I don't know what it was. What is it? The young women's creed or something? Personal progress. I mean, it just wasn't as big a deal. And I think that is changing for the better, which I'm encouraged by. I think this new change to allow women to go on missions, same age as young men go on missions, is a step in that direction too. So everything's a trade-off to some degree. Peter Higgs says, "Good day, you blokes. A bit late today. Well, welcome here. Watching on delay. Now I want y'all's top 10 movie lists. What's your top 10 movie list, Ian?"
This is going to. Are you wearing socks? Because
I'm actually not.
No way. Well, this is. I was gonna say this is gonna blow your socks off. So, guys, listen to this. This is the movie. My family make fun of me. There's only one true movie upon the face of the earth, and here it is. It's Scottish, and it's the movie you have to watch. It's unheard of, like a B movie, filmed in 1985 in Edinburgh, called Restless Natives. Go watch it. It's the best movie you've never heard of. My second movie is Highlander. Again, another Scottish movie that came out.
Yes.
Do you remember that movie in the 80s, right?
Yeah. It's a little hard to call it a Scottish movie because Christopher Lambert was French.
But Sean Connery was in it.
Sean Connery was Scottish. Yes.
And the movie left me shaken but not stirred.
There you go.
Yeah, that was my terrible.
Have you ever seen Highlander 2?
Yeah, it all went downhill after that.
It is one of the worst movies ever made.
Big time. It was a drop off a cliff, disaster. Highlander movie. I love the Matrix movie. That's pretty awesome. Oh boy, you've caught me here. You do your first three. I'll come back to you with my other ones. What's yours?
Okay, the top of my list is a movie a lot of people never heard of. It's called Searching for Bobby Fischer. It's the story of a young chess prodigy and how he battles between being amazing at chess and being a good person, and how his parents deal with it. And when I first saw it, I identified with the boy. I was in my early 20s. And now when I watch it, I identify with the parents. And it's changed it completely. And one of the beautiful things about it is you don't have to know anything about chess to enjoy it. Because I know how to play chess, but I don't really understand strategy or any of that. But that's I always put that at the top of my list. The Lord of the Rings movies are up there. I mentioned those three Rob Reiner movies, and I would put all three of those in. When Harry Met Sally, This Is Spinal Tap, what's the third one? Princess Bride, of course.
Princess Bride. Okay.
Princess Bride.
What about Star Wars? You like Star Wars?
The
original, the first ones.
So, as a kid, I was obsessed with Star Wars. And I would have hated myself for saying this now. But the only Star Wars movie that comes close to my top 10 is The Empire Strikes Back. That's the only movie, actually. That movie is the reason Star Wars has endured past the first movie, because it is such a vast expansion of the world building and of the universe. And the twist of Darth Vader being Luke's father. I'm sorry for this. I didn't give a spoiler alert, but Darth Vader is Luke's father. That is the greatest twist in the history of all of cinema. And that movie is just elegant and wonderful. I might put that in my top 10. But the movie I put ahead of it that's in a similar genre is Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan.
Oh, I've seen that one. Yeah.
Which is the best Star Trek movie by a mile, but it's also one of the best movies. I mean, it's a meditation on aging. There's so much thematic depth to it. And it has so much power because you have come to know, at least for someone from my generation who grew up on Star Trek, the series, these characters had such a rich backstory that when Spock, and again, spoiler alert, Spock dies, spoiler alert again, he comes back in the next movie. That death has so much impact and so much weight. And it's a reflection on mortality. Every time I watch it, I mean, if it ever comes on, it's just in the background, I'll watch it to the end.
Mm.
So that gets me up to 8 movies, I think.
That's really good. They're great movies. A couple of mine, as I've listened to you, that I just love is Dead Poet Society.
Oh, it's a lovely movie. Yeah.
Which is great. Mrs. Doubtfire, which I
really?
I like that one. Yeah.
Okay.
I love School of Rock.
Oh, that is a great movie.
That's a great movie. And the other one is I've got here, wrote it down. Is what's that one there? I'm not sure. I'll come back to you on that one. I can't read my writing. I actually cannot read my writing. I wrote it down. I've forgotten, and I can't read my writing. How embarrassing is that? I'll come back to that. Give me the next 2.
I have to stick a Monty Python movie in there, and yeah. I'm not sure if it's either Holy Grail or Life of Brian. Holy Grail is probably pound for pound a funnier movie.
Right.
I mean, it's got more jokes in it and more belly laughs in it. Life of Brian is still pound for pound a very funny movie with lots of jokes, but the story, the through line of it, has more weight to it. And I think so. As I'm talking about it, I probably put that there. And I know a lot of people thought that it was such a sacrilegious movie, and it really isn't. Jesus appears in the movie for about 5 seconds, and he's giving the Sermon on the Mount. And then the camera pulls all the way back to the cheap seats where they can't hear. And they're saying, well, what did he say? Blessed are the cheesemakers. Oh, no, I think he means all makers of fine dairy products. You know, I mean,
very good.
Yeah. I mean, it's totally respectful of the teachings of Christ. It's making fun of people who are not capable of thinking for themselves, and so I'd probably put that one in there, and that gives me one more spot. Do you got a couple more movies while I consider my last spot?
Listen to what you're saying. I've just decided my terrible handwriting, and this movie always gets me, and I kind of puts the lump in my throat. Wonderful Life.
Oh, beautiful movie. Yeah.
I try to get my kids to watch it. They said, Dad, it's black and white. Not interested. I still can't get my kids to watch it. I also like some of the Marvel movies. There's 2 Marvel movies I quite like. Actually, it's 2 or 3. There's the Endgame, which I quite like, and Infinity War. And there's the other one I really like, which one of the best ones I think was Winter Soldier.
Winter Soldier, I think, is the best Marvel movie.
Probably the best one, yeah. So that gets me up to, I don't know, what's that, 8, 9? What's your last one? What's your 10th?
Well, you know, Marvel movies, I love them too. They're all the same movie at this point for me. I mean, so actually, as you're talking about that, I think the movie that I'd have to put in there is the 1978 Christopher Reeve Superman movie. That I think defined the genre in a way that still resonates. You go back and watch Christopher Reeve's performance in that, and you can believe that people would look at Clark Kent and look at Superman and not realize they were the same person, because he is so good at differentiating between the two and creating this Clark Kent persona that. But it also, it was the first time. I mean, it's difficult to separate the movie from the impact that it had on me, because it's the first time I ever saw a superhero on screen, and I was a comic book geek from way back. I mean, I loved this new Superman movie. That would get close to my top 10, actually. I thought it was really, really well done.
That was a good movie. Yeah.
But like Marvel movies, this summer I saw the Fantastic Four, and I've wanted to see Galactus. Do you know who Galactus is?
Ooh, I know Galactus. I grew up on the comics.
If I ever get a tattoo, it's going to be of Galactus. I've wanted to see him on the big screen since I was 12 years old, and it was really a kick to see him this last summer, but I thought it's come too late. It doesn't have the kind of wonder that it would have had if it had come out the same time that the Christopher Reeve Superman movie did. So I think I'd put Superman 1978.
That's really good. That's a great movie. I think my 10th one, great movies, is The Godfather. series.
Oh yeah, Godfather's great movie.
The acting there, I think Al Pacino, Michael Corleone is just something else. And who's the big guy, the big actor there?
Marlon Brando.
Marlon Brando and Robert De Niro. And these are just, it's just a whole different level of acting. So it's great. So yeah, and I'll be watching some of those movies, but I do recommend watching Restless Natives, especially who's serving in mission Scotland. It's the funniest, unknown, underrated, kind of budget movie. It's just so funny.
Well, you know, our mutual friend Tom Forrest was out here in Salt Lake a couple of years ago, and he said to me, if you want to feel like you're back in Scotland, go watch a TV show called Still Game. Have you ever heard of that?
No, I haven't. No.
So apparently it was a sketch on a sketch comedy show, because the people who play the leads are relatively young men, but they're playing old age pensioners. And it's about two old age pensioners and all of their friends in Scotland. And it's everybody you ever tracted out of every house. I mean, I watched it. I mean, it's a very conventional sort of sitcom. It's on Netflix, I think. It's so Scottish.
Go ahead. Sorry, continue. Go ahead.
Well, I remember I watched it and I went, oh, I got to put on the subtitles because I'm only catching about a third of the words. Right. And you put on the subtitles and you catch about half the words. It's still so thick.
You just gave me an idea. I would love live. We could do this live, or we can do it on a regular podcast. I'd love to share some of the crazy and wacky stories that I experienced on my mission. There are many. They are the weirdest, strangest, wackiest, goofiest, craziest stuff you've ever heard that seemed to follow me around. Well, I mean, not all the time, but, you know, quite a bit. And I'm sure you've got some interesting stories.
I've got a handful.
I'm sure you do. Wouldn't that be a fascinating conversation? Some of the stuff would just be so funny. Any comments? So we kind of over time here.
A lot of the guys that says hello to Peter, and Peter says, "G'day, Gene." A lot of the guy just says Kolob. That probably made sense in context, but it was said a little while ago. Yep, I hear you, Ian. I have a telescope I regularly use, currently observing 31 Atlas Comet. Makes you realize just how small we are on the third rock from our sun.
We are so tiny. We really are. Yeah, great comment.
Yeah. Ted's 5133 says, what do you think of Greg Mattson's Mormon Stories interview? I didn't know he had done a Mormon Stories interview. I'm surprised that he did a Mormon Stories interview.
Tell me about Greg.
Do you know who Greg Mattson is?
I do not.
I don't know him. I was on a panel with him with Stephen Pinecker at one point, and that's the entirety of my interaction with him directly. He runs a channel called Quick Media, and I don't know where that name comes from, and it's spelled CWIC, so it's got to be an acronym or something. Very, very right-wing political. And he called out Aaron Sherinian for not supporting the proclamation on the family after Aaron Sherinian spoke at the Fair Mormon Conference. And I really kind of soured on him as a result of that, except he was also he was the first one to backtrack and say that he was wrong and that he had misrepresented that. And so I have forgiven him. But Ted's 5133, tell us what you thought about it and what we should look for. I should go back and watch it. Here, you can read the next few here, Ian.
Sure. Clayton, I agree that the church does not do as good a job for young women, but it is doing better. But I agree that the young men, young women program is pretty lame. Yeah, when I was bishop, I changed that, right? So I dealt with the inequality between young men and young women. That the plan was submit your, have a activity planning session with the young women. By the way, get the young women to lead that. Adults move aside. This is a young women's program, young men's program. Utilize the talent of the young men, young women, right? Adults get out of the way. They put the plan together. Adults support them, guide them, etc. But it's the young men's plan in accordance with the guidelines, in accordance with the objective of the year and spirituality. It was SPEC. It was called SPEC back then. It was spiritual, physical, educational, and citizenship. Remember that. These were in the young men's materials, young men's program, young women's programs, etc. So it was organized around that. And I changed the whole dynamics around that. Young women were leading equally. They had a plan. We had a budget, and it was equal. They got the same amount of money because before I came in, young women didn't get jack squat, frankly. So we changed that. I think when I was on the state presidency as well, at the state president eye surgery, there was a great leader. I think he did something very similar to that. Dealing with trying to deal with some of those. I don't know if there was any imbalance in the state, but I think we were cognizant of the need to make sure that young women were treated and respected equally as much as the young men, and that young men weren't given make sure it's equal and not unfair. So yeah, it's very important. So yeah, when the church's programs, when they're equalized and when they're supported and being led and supported with their involvement with young men and women, then they're amazing programs for sure. Yeah, and I applaud the church for continuing that.
All right, so next comment. Pull this up. We get some movies comments here. Want to read that?
Islander is awesome. Can't wait for the Henry Cavill version. I'm excited. I've heard about this. I'm excited about that. I'm hoping, because the Highlander 2, 3, and 4 was absolutely, I can think of a word right now, but I won't say it. Highlander 1 was the truest Highlander upon the face of the earth. I'm hoping that this Henry Cavill, the guy with
Henry Cavill.
Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, he was Superman in Man of Steel.
I know who he is. I'm not pronouncing the last name very well. I'm Henry Cavill. Okay, a Brit guy, really great actor. Actually, I am really excited. I'm hopeful it will be as good as the first one. So if you're going to do it, make it as good as the first one, please.
Well, I hope they do.
It's already made. So
but the thing that they have to do is make sure they keep the Queen soundtrack.
The Queen soundtrack is what got me into Queen big time.
Oh, Clayton is beaten up on crypto. I stand by it. Crypto is a vice. Trump coin and Dogecoin, just a bunch of pump and dump bull crap. It's a total Ponzi scheme, no long-term mindset, just a get-rich-quick BS scheme. So Clayton, I don't know how much to talk about this because I worked for a guy for a number of years, and he who was on the Genesis block of Ethereum cryptocurrency, which means that he bought Ethereum at 35 cents. And last time I checked, Ethereum's trading somewhere around $3,500. It's been up as high as close to $5,000. And so that was funding all of our business. And so I learned more about crypto, and I think that there are some valid uses for it. And I think I think blockchain technology, and you have a comment here that says, don't talk to me about the blockchain technology. I think there is more to it that has some value to it, but that's neither here nor there. We got a recommendation from Ted's French movie, Le Dîner des Cons. I don't know what that is.
Okay.
Vader means father in German. Yeah, but you know what? That's kind of I've heard that, but that's kind of an accident because George Lucas made it clear that he did not initially intend Darth Vader to be Luke's father.
I did not know that. My goodness, yeah.
What about the Truman Show?
That's an interest. Yeah, that's a word.
I wouldn't put it anywhere near my top 10.
That really hit me. When I was going through my faith transition, I watched that movie. Oh my gosh, it just hit me. Yeah. So I like that movie.
From The Breakfast Club. I love The Breakfast Club. Again, it wouldn't be in my top 10, but that came out.
Movie. That's a good movie. I like that.
At exactly the right time. I mean, I was the same age as all of the characters, so it really did hit me. But again, I wouldn't put it up there. Oh, you know what? I might put this in my top 10. My favorite movie is Groundhog Day. It is very profound. It really is. It was the first movie I ever saw with my wife on a date. But that's not the only reason why I love it. It really is a profound. Every time I watch it, there's more to it.
Yeah, a quick story on that. We were traveling. We did a fly drive holiday way back, and we ended up doing upstate New York, and we got lost. My wife and I got lost. We had a little girl with us, a daughter at the time, and we found ourselves. And how do you pronounce the town from the Groundhog Day?
Punxsutawney.
We found ourselves in Punxsutawney, and we asked for some directions, and then we learned that's where they. I think this was before. When was the movie? When did it came out?
Movie came out in 1993.
Okay, so yeah, so we were there after the movie, and we realized that we'd found this place for this movie, and we found it by accident. We got lost, we got direction, but we stayed there for a night, and we kind of explored the some of the movie sets there, some of the movie locations at that particular time. So yeah, that's not my top 10, but it's a good movie. Go ahead.
This is a very deep cut, but I've seen this movie, Defending Your Life, Albert Brooks. Have you ever seen that?
I haven't. No, I'm going to write these down.
Albert Brooks and Meryl Streep, and who's the guy, the prosecutor? He's the same guy from Men in Black, not Will Smith or Tommy Lee Jones, but anyway.
Yep.
Rip Torn, is that his name?
Rip Torn, yeah,
but the idea is that after you die, you essentially have to go to a court setting and defend your life. And if you defend it adequately, you move on. If you don't, you go back to Earth and keep reliving.
Does anyone like The Family Stone? We love that movie.
I have never seen that movie.
Oh, you've got to watch that movie. That's one of I'd put that in my top 10. We have a Christmas ritual every year. All of us, when we get together, we all watch The Family Stone. That is some movie. Highly recommend. Yeah.
It's a mad world. That's also kind of a deep cut. That's an older movie, big sort of chase movie. Or I don't know. Those kind of movies just make me anxious when everybody's trying to race each other. That wouldn't be anywhere near my top 10. But if you enjoy it, that's your thing.
Okay.
Monty Python made the world realize just how absurd religion can be. They're true masters.
Yes.
They are. It's funny because they peaked with Life of Brian, and then you go watch The Meaning of Life, which was their last movie. It's just not really a very good movie. It's got some moments in it. It's got the Mr. Creosote scene, which is the grossest thing that has ever been filmed.
Okay.
And I love it. You know that scene where the guy explodes?
Yes.
But it just doesn't hang together nearly as well, and doesn't. It's more designed to be offensive than it is to be funny,
right.
Which is sort of funny in its own right, but it's just not as good a movie. 1963. Yeah, that's Mad World, I'm thinking.
Okay.
We all live Groundhog Day to one and another. Okay, and here, you want to read? Bruce has weighed in.
Ian's short sermon and Jim's short sermon tonight were delightful, inspiring, made me feel more spiritual. Thank you, Bruce. We love you as always. Thank you for those nice comments. The Inside Out Church. Hey, we could start a new church, you and I.
Yeah. I don't want to.
Winter Soldier is definitely the best Marvel movie. Alien. Oh, I love the Alien series, by the way. Into the Spider-Verse.
I love Alien. I love Aliens.
I do.
Nothing else.
Oh no, I like Prometheus. Actually, I like Covenant as well. I did quite like that.
I've never seen Covenant. Alien 3 sucks. Alien Resurrection sucks more.
I agree.
Alien Predator is awful.
Yeah.
Into the Spider-Verse. Have you seen that? That actually is an amazing movie. Both of them.
I'm writing these down. Because these sound great movies. Thank you.
The Spider-Verse is supposed to continue the second movie, and it's been delayed for years, and we're waiting to see that.
Okay, right.
Speaking to Mose and Post Mose brought together for a great discussion. All right, well.
Yeah. Thank you.
Jacob Hansen and everybody go on cruises.
Hey, we should do Inside Out Cruise.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Well, I'm late. Y'all are killing me with the inconsistent start times. That's going to be fixed here, Guy McDude. That was a product of the Tabernacle Choir. I think 7 o'clock on Tuesdays. Ian, am I speaking out of turn? I think this is
No. It's a good point. I mean, we've got farmers, we've got work, we've got jobs, you've got choir. I'm quite flexible because I got my own my business here, my own business. Got some flexibility there. I can make that commitment each Tuesday, Jim, 6 p.m. my time. I'm on BC time. You're on Mountain time, and I think we can do it as a fixture going forward. You think?
I think so. And we'll let you know in advance if that has to change. But what about the Testaments? Got to make the top 10. Yeah. Those are the church movies.
Oh, no, sorry.
And There Is No Messiah. Is that a Monty Python reference? He's not the Messiah. I'm not sure what it is, who it was. If it's the Academy of Motion Pictures, Arts and Sciences, they did like the top 10 most iconic movie lines of all time. And they took one from The Life of Brian, where Brian's mother comes out and says, "He's not the Messiah. He's a very naughty boy."
Okay. That accent's very good. You're doing really well.
No, I'm just imitating Terry Jones, imitating a woman. That's also the movie Women Aren't Allowed to Go to Stonings, so they all get beards. Stone him. Are there any women here? No.
That's a crazy. Yeah, that's a great movie. The Brits are crazy, aren't they?
Have you seen Silence by Martin Scorsese? Profoundly good.
No, I'm making note of that. Thank you. That's great.
I have seen Silence of the Lambs, which would be close. It's the only horror movie that would be anywhere close to my top.
That is a scary movie.
I love that movie.
Right.
Brilliant movie. So here, Ian, you can read this one. He's taking issue with you.
Oh, I think Winter Soldier is the most overrated Marvel movie. I think Eternals is the most underrated. It has a great wrestle with obedience to God versus conflict. That's interesting because I thought that Eternals was kind of a missed opportunity. It's okay. It's all right.
Eternals, Eternals, there's a good premise there. Problem is you have to introduce a dozen characters, and you need to make them distinctive, and you need to care about them.
It's cluttered, fragmented. I think you
just can't do that in an hour and a half.
Yeah,
I mean, Eternals is too busy to make its point.
I think you summarized it better than I did. I think the Winter Soldier is just an old-fashioned action, good storyline, great.
It's also sort of an old 1970s political thriller type thing.
It had a few layers to it for sure.
3 days. I mean, Robert Redford was in it, and I mean, it just harked back to kind of like 3 Days of the Condor is the movie it reminded me of.
So, yeah, I appreciate Matty Jaw. I mean, it's like anything, isn't it? Some people like blue, some people like green, some people like yellow.
Okay, we get it. He said it's so. This is about quick media. He said it's an old English word, quick. You're old in English, Ian. Is that true?
I've never heard of that word in my life.
Sorry to call you old. Old. I had an experience this last week talking to a guy at work, and he was really enamored of my connection to David O. McKay, and he kept talking about how, well, you know this, when we were growing up, David O. McKay was he was the prophet that we grew up with. And I'm like, well, David O. McKay died when I was a year old. This guy's 81 years old, and he thought I was 81 years old. And I was like, oh, geez, I'm not that old, damn it.
You're like the Captain America of Mormonism.
Yeah, sure I am. John DeLynn is trying to turn a corner to be more of a bridge. He took Greg to lunch, then did a 3-hour podcast. It was decent. Good for John.
He took Greg Prince, did he?
No, Greg Mattson. This is
Greg Mattson. Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
John DeLynn, I got beat up again online because I said nice things about John DeLynn. But John DeLynn, I think, is vastly misunderstood in a lot of ways. I do not think John DeLynn is trying to destroy the church. I think John DeLynn is a whole lot closer to the Ian Wilkes model than he is to, say, the Bill Reel model. I mean, I think Bill Reel is on the sort of let's burn the church down kind of thing.
Mm.
But John Dehlin, the phrase he uses when I've talked to him is he says, I want everybody to engage in informed consent. He says, I want everybody to understand what they're getting into when they join the church and to understand all of it and have it all up front. And John Dehlin, he got a lot of flack because in the Inconvenient Faith documentary, he said all kinds of great things about the church and all kinds of great things that the church did for him. And they're like, you tricked him into sounding like an apologist. And I'm like, we didn't trick him to say anything. John Dehlin, right. You don't trick John Dehlin to do stuff like that.
No. I've met, sorry, go ahead. You finished. Go ahead.
No, I'm finished.
I have met John. We had breakfast together. I think I mentioned this a couple of podcasts ago. We got along. I liked him. I think he was a very interesting, very intelligent, very kind individual. My only criticism of Mormon stories, and I think I don't follow it a great deal. I used to, was there were times, and I can't remember specifically, but I do remember this did happen. There were times I felt that some of the questions were loaded, okay, were structured in a certain way, which kind of led you to give a certain answer. I remember thinking that and feeling that, going back a few years. I can't remember exactly which one. But if John is more of a bridge builder now, which I think is a good thing, I don't know him that well. I don't think he wants the church to be destroyed. I think he's probably, from what you're saying, wants the church to be inclusive and to improve. Right. I think he sees the goodness of it. Bill Reel, I don't know. We've not met. When I've listened to Bill on the few occasions that I've had, I get the feeling he's very angry about the church still, very bitter towards the church. I get the impression that he wants it to end, or at least I can understand. I can relate to this because I felt, I went through a time of real anger, Jim, right, towards the church. And there's a time where I didn't want it to survive and very much wanted it to be accountable. Even now, I want it to be accountable. I really do. I want it to be grown up and adult, mature, and admit its mistakes and follow its own doctrine, follow its own principles and its own teachings. But I've gone through, everybody's different. I get that. I've gone through that anger stage, and I was very angry with my father. What's that off? A Pretty Woman, right? And so I was very angry towards the church for quite a while, felt deceived and betrayed and misled and lied to. And now I've kind of come through that. I don't feel the same sense of anger, and I really felt anger. And I've tried to move beyond that and try to focus on the positive. I don't hold back when I feel, I need to criticize the church, and I do that at times, sometimes often in a very scathing way. I'm not afraid to, I've resigned. I'm not a member of the church. The church has no hold or sway over me, anything like that right now. And so I feel I can speak freely, openly. And so when the church is behaving inappropriately or making bad mistakes and doing awful things, and it does sometimes, then I still feel strongly it needs to be held accountable. When it's really good things, and I believe it does most things good, then I think it should be recognized and acknowledged. But I've gone past what appears to be the Bill Reel stage, where he's very angry, very bitter. That's the impression I get. I might be wrong. And he's gone through a lot of hurt. I don't know the specifics, but people get really chewed up and really bitter and very angry. And I think it can be self-destructive as well. That comes across when I've listened to him on the very few times I've listened to him. But if John's going to be a bridge builder, and I think if he is, he should be, because I think he'd do a great job. I think the church should. If I was the church, I would reach out to John, meet with one of the apostles, one of the leaders, and try to build a bridge directly with John and get John involved. People like that, and you and John and people like that involved in shaping some of and Greg Prince, frankly, and a few others, involved in shaping some of the policies and the programs and getting the opinion of these great people to shape and influence the programs and the policies, and getting using these people to get like a sounding board and say, hey guys, we're thinking of doing this or changing this or saying this. What do you think? I know it has different groups to speak to, but I think your voice, John Delen's voice, Greg Prince's voice, I think getting those guys in these committees to listen to their opinion would actually prevent the church from making some terrible own goals and actually get a different perspective on what the church's policies going to be or position is going to be. And I don't think it has done that enough. I think it needs to reach out to the, that post-Mormon community and actually listen and understand and get some feedback from people who have gone through all these different experiences and then learn from that and then use that to build a more inclusive community. That would be my recommendation to the leaders of the church if they're listening.
Well, are they listening? I would hope they would. We've gone a little long here, but I've had so much fun. I don't mind.
I've had fun as well. Yeah.
Let's just get through these comments. There's still a few. One thing I don't know about Quick Greg is he doesn't solicit accept money like Inside Out. Kind of cool. Oh, good. That is good. John Delan was too easy on him. John is trying hard to make his show welcoming to guests who are Orthodox believers. I wonder why he's doing that. I mean, it'd be interesting to talk to him about that. Mr. Holland's Opus. That's a lovely movie. Sure. Remember the Titans. I don't like sports movies. I just don't, mostly. There are a few exceptions. I love the Rocky movies just because.
Rocky movies are great. Yeah.
I don't know if they count as sports movies, but I was not an athlete, and those just don't resonate with me.
I thought you were the greatest high jumper on the planet, no?
No.
You're like 6'9", 6'10",
6'4", but no.
Oh, okay.
Castaway is one of my favorite movies of all time. My wife can't stand the inaccuracies of survival in the wild, but I love the story. Okay.
Out of the Wild. Yeah, I've seen that. And I've seen Castaway. Yeah, good movies. Yeah.
Couldn't watch the episode with John Delan and Greg all the way through. Greg does not have the conviction to speak with integrity about his beliefs. It did leak out that he sees it as a choice. Sees what as a choice? Sees belief as a choice?
If what you've just interpreted is correct, I was told, and I never shared this with you, and I've never discussed this openly. When I left the church, when I was leaving the church, when I was still going to church and going through that very painful transition, even attending the church, and people started to get wind that I had some issues, there was a leader of the church in the stake, a former leader, stood up and said, believing and accepting these issues in the church was a choice, meaning you either choose it or you to support it and take it with all of its ugliness, and you choose that, or you don't. And that really bothered me. I could not force myself to choose something that I felt was wrong or was dishonest or was not truthful or was not factual. I just couldn't do it physically. I couldn't do it spiritually. So the idea of forcing yourself, this is what I got from what I heard back about my experience from certain people in our stake, was that I chose to leave when I could have chosen to stay and accept all of the issues, and I wasn't prepared to do that. I wasn't prepared to be, in order to keep my integrity intact, to have authenticity and have integrity, and to look at myself in the mirror, sleep at night, and have a conscience. I couldn't stay in good faith, in the church. And so for me, it wasn't about, if I understand that comment, interpret it correctly, and I may not have done, I don't know. But for me, it wasn't a choice. I just couldn't force myself to choose something that I knew wasn't true or wasn't honest. I just couldn't do it. I didn't. So maybe that was my interpretation from that. Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's absolutely fair. I'm very late, as well as looking forward to the consistent start times in future weeks. Mr. Holland's Opus is my second favorite movie. Okay. Greg criticized John for leading people out of the church. John pushed back, saying he's not accountable for people choosing to leave. Yeah, I side with John on that one. I mean, John is not forcing anyone to leave. John is presenting information, and if that makes people leave, it's the information. this is the thing that people don't understand, is it's like you don't keep people in the church by keeping information from them. If you don't tell them Joseph Smith was a polygamist, you're not keeping him in the church. I mean, the whole Boyd K. Packer model that some things that are true are not very useful presupposes the idea that we can control what information people will and will not have. And that was never true, and it's certainly not true today. Information is democratized. Anyway, here...
It's been accused of leading people out of the church before. I think he did a survey a while back, a few years ago, and he asked people on Facebook and his different channels if any Mormon Stories podcast had actually encouraged people to stay in the church. And I think a lot of people stayed in the church because they were able to listen to different stories on Mormon Stories, different accounts, different experiences, etc. And it helped them navigate the faith. And I think John has helped people stay in the church, or at least navigate some of the issues, for sure. Go ahead.
Well, you want to read, just get through these?
I think you did the last. Okay, I think polygamy has pushed millions out of the church. I completely agree. What a disaster that was. I agree with Jared Vaughan. Far more than all the anti-Mormons combined. I think that's a really, really valuable point. Polygamy is the biggest issue of the church. It's a absolute, I almost swore there, a disaster. The pain and suffering those women went through, the inequality, the dishonesty, the threats, for not living that practice. It's the most awful thing I imagine. It is, in my opinion, the biggest threat and continues to be the biggest issue for the church today. It really is. So I think that's a really important point.
Yeah, I think we drive more people out of the church, we being members of the church. I think the sort of faith police that you see online, who have made particularly LGBTQ bigotry, LGBTQ bigotry, the centerpiece of their faith. I think those kinds of people drive more people out of the church than John Dehlin ever could. Ben White says, I smashed that like button on my way in. Yeah, we don't ask people to do that, but we would love it if you did.
Yeah, thank you, Ben.
Guy McDoug, yeah, what does Greg see as a choice?
Yeah, RFM has stated he is still has a soft spot for the church, which comes out and is one big reason I think he has not been excommunicated.
Yeah, I really, really like RFM on a personal level. And I think that's true. I think RFM has a great deal of affection for the church, and you can hear it when he talks. You can feel it when you talk to him. I think there's just a real disappointment that the church isn't what he wanted it to be. Whereas Bill Reel, you really do get that anger, and that we need to tear the church down.
To be fair, anger is a valid emotion. I agree. I'm angry about certain things in my Mormon experience. Contention, not always of the devil. Sure, but if something's wrong, okay, it's wrong. And the church has made mistakes. It's messed up big time. It's not been honest. It's not been open. It's deceived. It's kept information back. And people have found out. It's a big, it should have been completely open and transparent. If it had, it didn't trust the members to
some degree. I mean, it's getting better, but
yeah. So I think it's normal and natural to be angry, right? When you feel you've been deceived, for sure, right? Because you put your whole life into this, all your life, all your time, your energy. You completely commit. You're devoted. You're faithful, and then you find out it's not quite what you thought. We are way over time here, aren't we?
We are indeed. I
do this all day.
Contention are the same thing. I think you can be angry and not contentious, but that's a whole other thing. I do not think John Dehlin or William Law should have been excommunicated. William Law was not even given a trial. Well, that's a rabbit hole that we don't have time to go down.
That's an interesting topic.
It's just Ted 50. How'd he put it? The affliction of same-sex attraction. Greg sees that as a choice. Okay, Greg, and anybody else that agrees with Greg, listen to me right now. If you think people choose the quote unquote affliction of same-sex attraction. It is you and not me, and those of us who understand the reality and the science behind this. It is you who are out of step with the church, not us. The church has disavowed that position. The church has explicitly said people do not choose their attractions, and they've explicitly said people do not make those attractions go away with sufficient righteousness, which is a 180-degree turn from the miracle of forgiveness and from the church's position all of its time when I was growing up. So this is the idea the church will never change on this. This is why you have no credibility when you go, the church will never, ever, 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 ever change. The church has changed drastically on this in just the last few years. There isn't a controversial issue where the church has changed more quickly than this one. Let's see. The real Rudy came and did a fireside for our stake last year. It was a complete disaster. Talk about sports movies. Okay. Have you ever seen Rudy, the sports movie?
Mm-mm.
Okay. We're down to our last two comments. We got a third. You want to read these last three?
From our friend Clayton. Oh man, I can only imagine he comes across a bit of an odd duck and a little slimy to me. Okay. I'm going to listen to this. Interesting. RFM Ghost. Was that one?
Yeah,
RFM Ghosting Maven was not cool.
I don't know about that at all.
No.
So
Greg said it was choosing the church when you are gay. Greg said it was choosing the church when you are gay is the affliction. The belief is the affliction.
What? So belief in the church is the affliction?
I'll read it again. Greg said it was choosing the church when you are gay is the affliction. The belief is the affliction. Ted, could you clarify that?
That doesn't make any sense.
I'm trying to understand that. Okay.
Or I don't know if it's Ted that's not making any sense, or if it's
it's Greg not making any sense. Yeah.
So, all right. Well, with that, we have gone over by 36 minutes.
Yeah.
Always a delight to talk to you.
Always, my friend. I enjoy this. I hope our listeners and viewers enjoy it as much as we do.
Yeah, I hope so too, because we're going to keep doing it.
We're not going to stop. We're the truest podcast upon the face of the earth. Nothing can stop us. No one hollow down can stop this podcast.
Okay. Guy McDude said, okay, when you are gay, choosing belief is hard. Okay, that makes a little more sense. And then Guy McDude says, yeah, he tried to spin it, but it did not make sense. Greg's bigotry bled through.
I'm going to listen to that. That sounds interesting. Yeah. Good night, everyone. Good times. Clayton, we love you as always, and all of our viewers and listeners. We appreciate you staying with us. Jim, do you want to wrap it up?
Yep. Ted says this is the truest podcast, and he couldn't be any more right. So with that, thank you, Ian. Thank you all for participating.
Thank you, everybody.
Saturday, we have another episode coming out. Greg Prince is back, and so is Ganesh Cherian.
We're excited about that one. Yeah,
that's a great one. This is a great one.
Yes, it is for sure. Okay.
All right, thanks everybody, and we'll see you. We'll see you next week.
God bless us, everyone.